Welcome back to DIY Raj. Today I'm going to be taking out the spark plugs to ensure the motor is still free. As I believe I mentioned in my last video that it was October 2021 when I did it the first time to ensure the motor was free. What I did was I took the spark plugs out and disconnected the alternator because that's seized. And I put automatic transmission fluid down each cylinder. I let that sit. I can't remember. I think it was for about a day, maybe two. Then I came back and I was able to spin the fan by hand freely. Of course, it ejected automatic transmission fluid out at me. So if you're going to do that, just watch because it does eject it pretty well. So out of all of the tools I have, I found out the other day when I was going to do this the first time that I did not have a 7/8 deep socket, which is what you need to remove these spark plugs. So I had already went, and as you can see, I removed the 4 spark plugs, and I was able to loosen the 2 spark plugs on the left here by hand. So I guess I didn't tighten them completely whenever I did this back in 2021. So now that I have the right tools, which always helps, gonna see what we can find out. I'm hoping it's still free. I believe it will be. After sitting outside for 16 years, of the 4 spark plugs I pulled out, I believe 2 of them had a tad bit rust on them. Not too much, and I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. After sitting for the last year and a half now, I'm hoping it hasn't gotten any worse. It has been inside the whole time, so yeah, let's see what we can find out. Okay, so now that we have the 4 spark plugs out, I was able to verify that they do not look rusted. So apparently they didn't get any worse. I'll bring the camera in here so you could sort of see what they look like up close. I hope you could see that there, but they don't look too bad. You can ignore a little bit of dirt and crud that are on them. That was from me reinstalling them the first time outside. There's a little bit of crud in here and I didn't wipe it out completely. So that's something I'll have to wipe off before I put them back in. So the first thing to note is whenever you're going to test this, unlike I did the first time, is make sure it's out of gear. The first few times that I tried spinning the fan by hand, I couldn't understand why it wasn't working, and I thought that the motor was seized. The one thing I did notice about it though, is that the tractor was moving a little bit. Dummy me forgot to put it in neutral. So I put it in neutral, and that's when I was able to spin the fan freely, and it ejected the transmission fluid out of the cylinders at me. So we're going to go ahead and try that now and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to ensure that we're in neutral here. The one thing to note, I did have it in gear. This tire is actually flat. It is sitting on a jack stand right now. I don't know if the tube is bad inside or I did find a pinhole next to this valve stem. So I don't know if that's something I can repair. I don't remember if there's a tube in here that I can replace. The side walls of it are somewhat cracked, but it looks like it's still usable. That's something I really don't want to replace, seeing as that they are $600. But if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. So once again, we're in neutral. Just making sure the alternator is still disconnected. And because I don't want sprayed with automatic transmission fluid, I'll stand on this side so you can see. It should be free. That's a little harder than I had imagined. But it does spin. It's not super easy. But it does spin, which is a plus. I think the first time I did it, it may have been a little easier to spin there. I did have a flashlight the last time I did this. I forgot to bring one in with me, which that would have been helpful just to see which cylinders are moving, which they all should be. They all did last time. But yeah, so my motor's still free. That's good. The next thing I want to do is get this deck off. Okay, before I started the deck, I just wanted to note that I did test the cylinders with a light, and I was able to verify that all 4 cylinders move freely while spinning the fan. Like I said, I don't have a flashlight out here, so I used my phone, and I could see each cylinder moving. So that's a good note. Once we're done here tonight, I'm going to reinstall the spark plugs until I'm ready to mess with that a little further. But onto the deck, and I may wrestle with this a little bit, but we'll see. As you can see here, if this wheel is not blocking it, I do have, well, that wheel's frozen. I do have blocks of wood under here because when I did lift this deck up that high, I had help. Well, since I'm out here by myself, I'm going to improvise and use lumber. The reason why we do have this deck up so high, though, is it had to clear the beaver tail on my trailer. So I haven't moved it since, and this is where we stand. So let's see if we can get this off with too much of a hassle. If not, it may be saved for another day. I may just start part of it tonight. We'll see. Okay, well, I went and got a hammer just in case I'm going to need that to loosen this chain. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, the deck is down. Hopefully that little bit provided some entertainment for some of you. Yeah, I don't remember the last time this deck was off of here. It had to be, I'm gonna say probably when we finished the first restoration back in 1997. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is, here is I think get the belt off if I can. Here goes nothing. Okay, I don't quite remember how we got this belt on and off before, but something in my memory kicks back to this pulley back here. I vaguely remember feeding it onto here, but I don't recall if that's the right way to do it or if there is a right way to do it. I did mess with this a little bit before. It seems kind of snug. So I'm going to try it up where I have that little piece of wood that I grabbed and see if I can get it off the center blade pulleys and just loosen it up there first. So that's what we're going to try. Okay, well, that worked. I wasn't sure it was going to or not, but that's something. Something to note also is I think that this should probably be in gear. I felt like the tractor sort of shifted. Could have been just my not knowing what I'm doing. Okay, now that I have the belt loosened, I'm going to remove it from the rear pulley here. I don't know if the correct terminology for this would be the PTO wheel or something, but it is what it is. That spins nice and freely, so that's a good sign. I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way here. I have the dolly over there in case I get this off so I can put it underneath. Hopefully slide this out a little easier. But again, do we ever expect things to go smoothly? Not really. I actually don't know if these pins were ever removed. So that'll be interesting to find out. That one came off pretty easily, which surprises me. And so did that one. I'm going to slide this dolly underneath the back here, if I can get it. I might not be able to. So I might have to figure out another way for now. Let it sit on the ground and see if I can maneuver it out there without that. This is one of the decks, I believe, from what I remember, that you have to drive over, and since the tractor is not currently running, that's not an option. So I had to figure out another way to do it. I'll stick a couple pieces of this wood back here just so this doesn't drop once I take these pins out. I hope that works. Okay, we have the 2 pins out of each side of this in the back here. The front's no longer connected, and hopefully this is sitting on the piece of wood I put back there. That's where I sheared the bolt off the other day. I don't know how easily this is going to come apart, or if it even is. Okay, so I was actually able to get the rear of the deck up onto the dolly I had in here. It took a little bit of work, but I was able to get it there. It seems as if the deck is resting on the bolt that I had sheared off the other day. And just looking at it, looks like that could be seized up a little bit. So instead of prying this and prying and busting knuckles, I think I am going to go ahead and take the rest of these pins out. See what I can do, see if that'll make things a little easier. But I removed 2 of the 6 minus the bolt that I sheared off. So I guess that's the next step. So that looks like that freed that up. Let me see if I can get to this other side here. Okay, that was much easier than prying this thing would have been. Now, since I realized that we have a seized see wheel here. This might be a little interesting. I thought that I was going to be able to freely roll it around. But as I figured, it's not like anything on this project is going to go very easily. Okay, well, I'm going to have to move the camera to get the deck further out, but as we can see, with a little bit of tugging and fighting with it, I was able to get that off. These will come off very easy. There's only a pin on each side holding those on. So I'll be able to get those off here and get the deck out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead, shut the camera off, put the spark plugs back in, not crank them, just tighten them a little bit to keep them sealed, and get the deck out of the way, and that'll be it for tonight. I'm not sure what the next step is going to be, but you'll be sure to be with me whenever I do. Thanks for joining me tonight in just a little bit that we did. It didn't seem very productive, but it's a step in the right direction, and look for my next video. This is DIY Raj. Have a good evening.